Morning, children. Yesterday I explained about the meaning of making a living, its different sectors, primary sectors, secondary sector, and tertiary sector, and the different livelihoods of rural areas. In the rural areas, agriculture is the main occupation, and apart from agriculture, many occupations are there like a teacher, hairdresser, potters, masons, metalsmith, shopkeeper, and carpenters. And government also appointed or employed for the maintenance of law and order of that area, and that people are called police, and for administrating area also. Now the first occupation of the rural livelihood is farming. In India at present around 50% of population is depend on agriculture. Means India is a agricultural country. 50% means half of the population is depend on agriculture, and there are different types of farmers found in India. Some are growing grains, some are and some are growing fruits. Different types of farmers are found in India, and they have a different categories of land also. Some farmers having their own farming land, and some are having a few acres of land, and some farmers have no land. So according to their ownership of the land, the farming land is divided in the farmers are divided into different categories. So first one is the large farmer. Large farmers, they have their own farming land. Large farmers means they have more than 5 hectares to hundreds of hectares of land. Means between 5 hectares to 5 hectares to hundreds of hectares of farming land. And they use the modern technology like tractors, harvester, threshing machines, etc. And many of the farmers, they use high yielding seeds. High yielding seeds means good quality of seeds they used, and they use fertilizers to increase their yield. Means they use fertilizers to increase the fertility of the soil. And many of the large farmers do not work on their own field. They do not work in their own field, and they employ others. The other people employ in their field. Many large farmers grow cash crops like cotton and sugarcane. Apart from this, they use food crops like wheat and rice. Then there are medium farmers. Large farmers, second category is the medium farmers, and these farmers having their own farmland from 2 to 5 hectares of land. Large farmers have 5 to hundreds of hectares of land, and the medium farmers have 2 to 5 hectares of land, and they cultivate their own land. They work in their own farming land, and they produce just enough food for themselves. So they produce just enough, means first the whatever cultivation they have done, it is sufficient for their family, and with a little left or only small amount of production left for selling in the marketing, and this is called the subsistence farmers. And these types of farmers are called subsistence farmers. Subsistence farmers means the farmers cultivate their own land and they produce just enough food for themselves, a very little amount left over for their selling, and this type of farmers are called subsistence farmers. and they mainly grow food crops like wheat, rice, and pulses. The next one is the marginal farmers. Marginal farmers, they have their own land but less than 2 hectares of land. Less than 2 hectares of land. Large farmers have 5 to 100 hectares of land. Medium farmers have 2 to 5 hectares of land. And the marginal farmers have less than 2 hectares of land. And they work in their own farmland with their hand or with the help of animal driven plough. Means they use the ancient method of cultivation, and they grow food crops, and they are often not sufficient whatever they grow, and that is not sufficient for their family. And the marginal farmers often work on the other farms to get more money. The next category is landless farmers. Landless farmers do not have their own land, and they are compelled to work on their other people's land. They do not have their own land and they work on their other land, other people's land, and mostly they are poor. And mostly they work in the large farmers on whose land they work to pay them in kind, or for money they work. Not all the farmers are not grown crops. Some are engaged in other occupations like dairy farming, poultry farming, cattle rearing, fishing, etc. Okay, so these are the other occupation in the rural areas: dairy farming, poultry farming, fishing, and cattle rearing. What is dairy farming? Dairy farmings are the farms where cows or the cattle are raised for milk. Milk from cows is sold or used to make milk products like cheese, butter, ghee, or cream. Okay, so dairy farmings are farm where cattle are raised like cow, buffaloes, goat, and this milk they use to sold and make milk products like cheese, butter, etc. Next one is poultry farming. What is poultry farming? Poultry farming raise chickens, ducks, and other other fowl for meat or eggs. Now, poultry farming means they raise chickens, ducks, and other fowl for meat and eggs. And in our coastal belt, fishing is the main occupation. The government is encouraging aquaculture, that is called rearing aquatic animal like fish and shrimp for food. The next one is, so these are the different occupation in rural livelihood: farming, dairy farms, poultry farm, fishing, and aquaculture. Now, debt among farmers. Debt among farmers means the farmers they take loan from other farmers. Most of the farmers of India are small farmers. Okay, large farmers are found in foreign countries like USA, but most of the Indian farmers are small farmers, and their success, the success or the failure of their crops still depend on the arrival of the monsoon rain. Okay, so the success or the failure of their crops still depend on arrival of the monsoon rains, and they often have no access to irrigation. Means they do not have the modern facility of irrigation, and they often end up borrowing money. Sometimes their crops failed, so they ask money from other, they borrowing money from other local money lenders. In those days they also take loan from the bank for buying seeds and fertilizer or for digging tube wells. For these they also take loan from the bank, and they pledge their land with the money lenders or bank to get the loan. If the farmer, sometimes the farmers are unable to repay the loan because the rain may have failed, or might they have been too much and their crops are failed or destroyed, they lost or little land they had. So for to repay the loan, they sold their a piece of land. And there have been several of cases of farmers. In case of they are unable to pay the loan, so several farmers, they committed suicide because they were unable to repay their loan. Now the next one is urban livelihood. A large number of people lives in our towns and cities. Most of the people, half of the people live in village, but most of the people, they live in towns and cities. And town and cities also, there are varieties of occupations found in India. From administration to education, and from banking to health, different services are found in India, and these services provide job to the people. But just there are the rich farmers and the poor farmers in village, not all the people living in urban areas. So the first occupation of the urban livelihood is industries. Many towns and cities grew up around manufacturing industries. What is industries? Industries is a place where the raw material converted into finished goods, and that finished goods reaches to the market, and from market reaches to the consumers. For example, Mumbai grew around the textile industries. Many textile industries are found in Mumbai. Factories manufacture a variety of things. Many things the factory manufactures, like plastic goods, clothes, garment, sugar, electronic goods, papers, many things. And there are also bankers. Bankers also provide jobs to the people. And there are many bakeries which make bread and other eatable things. The various factories that make up these industries employ thousands of people, and these industries provide job to thousands of people. And these people work for a certain number of hours. Their working hours is limited. In factories, the people who are working, they are working in a limited hours, and they get the fixed amount of salary. The people who get regular employment are assured to fixed income throughout the year. But in some industries like iron and steel industry, the manufacturing process goes on without a stop. In such places, the people work in shift. In the large scale industries, the people work goes on 24 hours. So the people work in shift, and there are 3 shifts of 8 hours each day. Means that each people work 8 hours. Means the work is going on in 3 shifts. Each shift consists of 8 hours. And the owner of these factories really join their workers to operate the machine, and the owners also, they contact with the workers who operate the machines. The entire process of production, from sourcing raw material to selling or finished goods in the market, all things are managed by the owners. All things, raw material, production from the sourcing raw materials to selling the finished goods, all things are managing by factory owners. and their income comes from the profit made by the factory or company. As the people work, their income is depend on that. Next one is services. In the cities and towns, many services provide job to the people, like shopkeeper, auto rickshaw, taxi driver, teacher, doctor, and nurses. All these provided us some services. Except these, banks also, insurance agencies, railways, postal and telephone services, and services provide that employs millions of people across the country. Doctor, journalist, lawyer, teacher, bankers are called professionals. They are called the professionals, and they follow to choose profession. And other services also chosen by the people. The shopkeeper and business organization maintain the flow of goods and services in the cities. And they provide people with everything. The shopkeepers and businesses, they provide each and everything to the people what they need, from rice, bread, vegetable, means from kitchen to all the house decorating materials provided by shopkeepers and the business organizations. And some people who runs the business ventures involves in certain amount of risk. But if a business does well, okay, if the business goes well, means the profit they get more. If the business failed, they do not get any profit. And the large number of young people today are opting to become entrepreneur rather than working for someone else. Another major services of employment in cities are business process outsourcing, BPO. Business process outsourcing. Many companies abroad, in this, the many companies from the abroad, means from outside countries, they come to India and start their business, like billing to BPO units in India because it is cheaper to have a work done there. In call centers also a BPO unit. For example, computer company may get queries from customers about how to run their computer, and the computer company asks the call centers to handle all such sales and solve the customers' problems by telephone. Now the next one is, next side heading is migration. What is migration? Migration means the movement of people from one area to another area in search of jobs. Okay, but most of the people, they move from rural areas to urban areas. Rural areas means village area, and urban area means cities and towns. They move from rural areas to urban areas in search of food and shelter, or in search of jobs. This movement is called migration. And there are many more. In cities and towns, they get more jobs and they have more options available in cities. So there are many reasons for this migration. First, the lack of education opportunity in rural areas. In rural areas, the people do not get the educational opportunity. Next, the lack of adequate health facilities. They do not get better health facilities in rural areas. Next, seasonal agriculture means all whole year, means 12 months they do not involve in agriculture. Only few months they involved in agriculture. Rest of the month they are free. So they used to move. And next one, the lack of employment in the rural sector and rural area, they have no more choice for the employment. And the last point is attractiveness of the city life. Most of the people, they attract from the city life. So these are the reasons the people migrated from rural areas to urban areas. Because of this migration, this area, the cities and towns usually lack basic infrastructural facilities, and they may not have electricity, water, or proper drainage system. And because of this, the area developed into slum area. And the people slum dwellers are urban poor, that is daily wage workers and casual laborers, domestic servants, rickshaw pullers, hotel boys, and so on. In slum areas, especially in the big cities, the people who migrated, they work like a wage workers, means daily work, casual laborers, and domestic servants. They work in other houses, they pull rickshaws, they work in hotels and different works. Now the next is unemployment. What is unemployment? Unemployment means the people who do not have any work, the people who do not find the right job. Even in India, most of the people are unemployed. Unemployed means the people who do not find right job according to their qualification. In rural areas, seasonal employment is a problem because all 12 months they do not involve in agriculture. So they migrated from from rural to urban areas. And this is because of the lack of soft skills like communication skill, and they had fewer educational opportunities because of their socio-economic background. Unemployment generally creates a situation where a wastage of human resources. Unemployment affects the overall growth of the economy. One of the indicators for a well-developed country is 100% employment, with more people working in the secondary and tertiary sector. A number of measures that have been taken for the removal of poverty and unemployment in India. The National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, the National Food for Work Program, and the Prime Minister Rozgar Yojana, the Swarna Jayanti Gram Sarovar Yojana, skill development programs, and the introduction of self-help group are some of the schemes formulated by the government to remove or to reduce the percentage of unemployment. The government started many schemes like Prime Minister Rozgar Yojana, Swarna Jayanti Gram Swarojgar Yojana, skill development program. So many schemes are started by government to reduce the percentage of unemployment. And the government provide loans to self-help group to start small and cottage industries. Then the government also provided some amount of loan to start their small businesses with a view to market optimum use of resources and generating proper employment opportunities. Many industrial training industries and skill development schemes have been set up. The person who are not having degrees, so at least they can take training and they can develop their skills and they can run their life. Thank you.